Trump advisor says the boss should come clean on UFOs. I'm Kevin Cirilli. It's time for the Daily Debrief. Let's get right to it. A Colorado Supreme Court ruling that former President Donald Trump cannot run for office on the Colorado ballot because he violated the insurrection clause in the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution. Sources close to the Trump campaign have been telling me for months that they've been planning for this and they're ready to challenge it all the way to the Supreme Court. Here with fresh reaction is Trump advisor Lewandowski, one of the architects behind Trump's 2016 presidential campaign. Corey, thanks for being here. Have you spoken to Trump? How is he doing after this news? And how is the campaign reacting?
Well, Kevin, I haven't spoken to President Trump directly since the news came out last night from the Colorado State Supreme Court. But what we do know in a 4-3 decision, the state Supreme Court ruled that Donald Trump was guilty of an insurrection. And what's amazing to us at the campaign, Kevin, is that Donald Trump has never been charged by Jack Smith or anybody else with the insurrection. And you would think that all the resources that the federal government has through the Department of Justice, if he was actually guilty of that, they would charge him with it, they would put him on trial, and he would be found guilty. That has never occurred. So we feel very strongly that the U.S. Supreme Court is going to take this case up immediately. It will be a 9-0 decision to overturn the Colorado Supreme Court's decision, and Donald Trump will be on the ballot in all 50 states.
Corey, the decision desk polls that I've been looking at in the battlegrounds have Trump leading in many battleground states, but is this going to hurt Trump with moderate swing voters in these battlegrounds?
You know, I don't think so. Look, what we've seen, Kevin, unfortunately, is the partisan politics of the court system now. We've seen a two-tier justice system. What most people don't know is that the Colorado State Supreme Court is appointed by a commission, which is actually appointed by the Democrat governor. That has been the case. And so these are predominantly partisans. And so, look, we've never seen in the history of our country Clause 3 of the 14th Amendment implemented to prevent someone from running for Congress. Clearly never a president. Clearly someone who's never even been charged with a count of insurrection. This is only going to make Donald Trump stronger, reaffirm his base that this is a system which is designed to keep him off the ballot. Look, let the people decide. If you don't want Donald Trump to be your president, then go out and vote for somebody else. But I think the American people want to return to strength and security and a secured country with our national borders, and that's why they're going to send Donald Trump back to the White House to be the 47th president of the United States.
So, Corey, you think this is going to be a boomerang effect? So as a result of that, I mean, is it time for these other candidates in the Republican field to get out of the race and coalesce behind Trump?
Well, I think they should. And look, even the president's
opponents... You think they should? When should they get out?
His defense, whether it's Chris Christie or Nikki Haley, they have jeered the Supreme Court ruling in Colorado. They believe that the people should have the ultimate say. And what we know about the Trump base is that they are steadfast. They are resolved. They will be turning out. And this is going to only get them more fired up to turn out in a state like mine in New Hampshire, where moderates and independents can show up and vote in the primary. Look, we've seen other candidates come and go, rise and fall in this process. But Donald Trump continues to have what I believe to be is an insurmountable lead in this nomination process.
Well, should Vivek Ramaswamy get out of the race then?
Absolutely. Look, Vivek should get out. Chris Christie should get out. Nikki Haley should get out. I think Asa Hutchinson is still technically in the race. None of these people have a path forward. If we truly want the Republicans to be successful in November against Joe Biden, then let's coalesce around Donald Trump. I believe Ron DeSantis is going to get out of this race after Iowa. That is evident by a number of the individuals around his campaign leaving, his super PAC imploding. I think Nikki Haley is out of this race by the time South Carolina finishes, and that leaves Donald Trump in the strongest position to take on Joe Biden. Get out of the race now, support Donald Trump, and let's get this general election match underway.
Well, Trump was in Waterloo, Iowa last night, as we've discussed, and it was his 5th stop in Iowa. He's urging folks to get out the vote. Here he is.
The poll numbers are scary because we're leading by so much. The key is you have to get out and vote because, you know, I tell it all the time. If you don't get out and vote, we can put this to bed after Iowa, if you want to know the truth. We can put it to bed for them, too. They can go home and forget it.
Trump's never won an Iowa caucus. I mean, back in 2016, he lost to Ted Cruz by 1 delegate. So take me inside of the psyche of Trump's re-election or Trump's 2024 campaign effort and just how much Iowa means to them this time around.
Well, Kevin, he did win the 2020 as the incumbent president. He won the caucus there by a margin. But, you know, in 16, it was a different race. We were still introducing Donald Trump to the political world. He didn't do all 99 counties. He performed exceedingly well, but the media expectation in the 16 races that he should have won. Here's where we are now in 2024. I believe Donald Trump is going to win the Iowa caucus. His team has put an enormous amount of effort into that. We've seen Kim Reynolds endorse Ron DeSantis, but we haven't seen a bump because of that. I have traveled to Iowa with Donald Trump when he went to the Iowa State football game in that frat house, the pictures that you're showing now. I was there with him. I've seen the crowds. We know that caucusing is different than a primary. The team is very focused on the success in Iowa. You will see a shock in our campaign from the Trump campaign. We've already seen our surrogates going to Iowa. Dr. Ben Carson has been there. Congressman Matt Gaetz has been there. Additional surrogates will be going there over the course of the next 3 weeks. And I think you will see a substantial victory for Donald Trump in Iowa. He will then come to my home state of New Hampshire, where once again he will win. Then he'll go to Nevada, win that caucus, and finish this race off in South Carolina.
So I want to stick in New Hampshire, where you know better than anyone, just given the Trump orbit and the Republican politics in the Granite State. Nikki Haley surging there. Is she going to be able to have enough momentum to beat expectations and even pull off an upset and beat Trump?
Look, Kevin, I think the only way that can happen is if Chris Christie gets out of this race, if Ron DeSantis gets out of this race. Look, I don't think she can beat Donald Trump, but as the field were to narrow, she would have a better opportunity to pick up some of those Chris Christie voters, those individuals who don't want to support Donald Trump and are only supporting Chris Christie. The difference here is, as Ron DeSantis gets out of the race, some of those individuals are going to support Donald Trump. When Vivek Ramaswamy gets out of the race, by and large, the people who are supporting Vivek are going to go and support Donald Trump. Asa Hutchinson has such a small number of people supporting him. I think it's not going to matter. But if this becomes a two-person race, it is clearly going to indicate that Donald Trump is still going to win in New Hampshire, but it's going to be a close race. And I will predict here that Nikki Haley leaves New Hampshire with some Republican delegates, because I believe she will get north of 10% of the vote. That said, Donald Trump is the odds-on favorite to still win the state.
Does Trump pick Tucker Carlson as vice president?
Boy, I hope not. Look, I like Tucker. I think, let me give you some names that I think Donald Trump should look at. I think he should look at Joni Ernst. I think he should look at Kristi Noem. I think he should look at Tim Scott. I think he should look at Elise Stefanik. These are all individuals who either have elective experience and can help, or have a leadership partnership with Donald Trump. And I will say this, Mike Pence was a fantastic vice president for 3 years, 355 days. A great choice. And I was the chairman of the Vice Presidential Selection Committee when Mike was chosen. I know the type of person that Donald Trump should have as his vice president, and any of those four individuals would be absolutely fantastic. I think Tucker Carlson and a number of the others would try and upstage Donald Trump for their own political gain in 4 years from now. So I think what Donald Trump needs is a partner, someone who understands how Washington works, someone who's been a chief executive officer, and I think some of those people fit that bill very well.
Two more questions for you. RFK, how is the Trump campaign planning for RFK? A lot of polls suggest that there are voters who are deciding between Trump and RFK.
Well, look, I really think that RFK is drawing more and more voters away from the Biden campaign. And if history is an indicator, and you look at people like Ross Perot, who received 19% of the vote when he ran the first time in 92, RFK has an ability to get in the high teens or even low 20s. If that's the case, this presidential election is going to be decided with an individual getting 42 or 43% of the vote. If that is where we are, and don't forget, it's not just RFK in this race. We've got Stein in this race from the Green Party. We've got the Colonel in this race. All of those individuals are taking votes away from Joe Biden. Because of that, you could see Donald Trump win by a wide margin with 43 or 44% of the vote, very similar to how Bill Clinton was elected.
Well, Corey, just final question for you before I let you go. And it's a serious one, because a lot of folks in Washington are starting to really talk more and more about public disclosures around UFOs. And I know that you spoke, I know you're laughing, but Corey, there was a hearing on the Hill last week, Marco Rubio, other senators really out there asking for more disclosures. And your conversations with the president, what is he going to say as more and more folks are demanding answers on what the government knows, what Trump knew, what Biden knows, and why they're not just being transparent with the public about what everybody knows? I mean, Trump talks about the deep state and whatnot, but he's never really talked about this. Roger Stone had him on the program and asked specifically about this, and even Trump backed down from Roger a little bit on this topic. So where does Trump go with this?
Well, look, I'm a person who wants full transparency with everything. Let's find out who killed JFK. It's been 60 plus years. Let's find out what really happened on the 9/11 Commission. Let's find out if there is extraterrestrial life force out there and what threat, if any, they pose to our country. So, look, you and I both agree on this. The more transparency, the better. What we have seen, unfortunately, is the government has lied to us time and time again. The American people deserve better. And our chief executive officer should be willing to let the American people have all the information and then decide with it from their own prerogative what it entails. But unfortunately, there are too many secrets out there. We continue to protect people that don't have our best interests at heart. And we have seen the intelligentsia community, benefit themselves over the course of the last multiple decades because it is good for their pocketbooks and not good for the American people. So if Donald Trump is the president, I would encourage him to open up the books to all of these things. If there are individuals who are living who were associated with the JFK assassination, then let's hold them accountable. Let's get the real story out. Let's make everybody with the best knowledge possible.
It's time for space. It's time on space. People deserve to know. Corey Lewandowski up there in New Hampshire for us, giving us an insight into that Trump 2024 campaign. Thank you, Corey.
You bet.
President Biden says there's no question Trump supported an insurrection. He made the remarks earlier after landing in Milwaukee.
Well, I think it's certainly self-evident. You saw it all. Now, whether the 14th Amendment applies, I'll let the court make that decision. But he certainly supported an insurrection. And no question about it. None. Zero.
All right, so Trump's disqualified, Biden border battles, and Senate ready to head home. Who else better to break it down for us than the Hill's Brett Samuels? Hey, Brett, so the elephant in the room. Any reaction from the White House over Trump being disqualified in Colorado outside of what we just heard from the president?
In short, Kevin, no, there's really nothing to add beyond what the president said. The White House is very cautious. They want to stay away from anything that could be seen as weighing in on these 2024 legal battles or putting their thumb on the scale. So you heard what the president said, and even he was a little cautious about weighing in on the court case itself.
Okay, are they cautious because they don't want to weigh in on the court case, or are they cautious because it could backfire on them? And you've seen Trump's poll numbers go up every time he's been indicted.
I think it's a little bit of both, honestly. They don't want to be seen as sort of weighing in on an ongoing legal process, but at the same time, they're worried that, if the White House is out here saying that this is a good court ruling, then that's just more ammo for Trump and his allies to say that this is a politically motivated case, that it's election interference, and things along those lines that they've already been very eager to put out there.
All right, on the campaign trail just the other night, Trump was in Iowa reacting to the Biden campaign, saying that he's parroting Hitler.
It's crazy what's going on. They're ruining our country. And it's true. They're destroying the blood of our country. That's what they're doing. They're destroying our country. They don't like it when I said that. And I never read Mein Kampf. They said, oh, Hitler said that in a much different way.
So this worked for them, the Biden campaign in 2020 to some extent, and they're using this fascist argument again in 2024. Do you think, based on your reporting, that it will work the same in 2024?
Well, early returns sort of suggest that it may not have the same effect, whether it's because voters are just kind of numb to hearing this kind of thing from Trump, or they're willing to overlook it, or whatever it may be. But it's not every day that you're hearing the leading candidate in the GOP primary kind of openly talking about Hitler and distancing himself from Hitler. And yet that doesn't seem to affect his poll numbers. So, we're going to continue to hear from the White House that Trump is talking fondly about authoritarians and dictators from the 1930s. But that doesn't seem to bother Trump supporters. Now, the question, I guess, is whether that changes come time of a general election.
All right, Senator Tommy Tuberville finally lifting his months-long block on military nominations, holding up more than 300 nominations. Was anything accomplished that he set out to do?
I guess he accomplished drawing attention to himself and sort of what he was pushing for, you could say. And for a time, he had others kind of rallying behind him. But in the end, I think that this really just kind of served to frustrate a lot of people in the Senate. It certainly frustrated people in the Pentagon and the White House who feel like this was just a big show from Senator Tuberville that ultimately only served to either, force some military officers into retirement or negatively impact military readiness. So, Senator Tuberville might call this a win because he brought attention to his cause, but I think he certainly irked a lot of people in the process.
All right, that's a lot of politics. Let's head now to the policy, because in January, it's shaping up to be an incredibly busy month. There could be a partial government shutdown. You've got military funding and supplemental aid on Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, not to mention the border crisis. How is the White House Congressional Liaison Office negotiating with Republicans and leadership?
Yeah, they're certainly going to need to get in their rest here during the holiday break over the next week or so, because it is going to be a very busy January, like you said. A lot of these things are really priorities for the White House, especially Ukraine funding. If they're able to secure a border deal, I think that's a win for the White House, because it's a sort of sensitive general election topic, I think. The big question will be whether the White House and congressional leaders are able to package all these things together to pass them all at once. Or if the route that they decide to go is to basically break them off and pass piece by piece Ukraine aid, Taiwan, Israel funding, immigration. So that'll be the thing to watch, I guess, once everyone reconvenes in the new year.
I want to zero in specifically on the immigration portion of the to-do list for Congress. Governor Abbott in Texas just signing a bill into law allowing police to arrest illegal immigrants. For President Biden, how has he been reacting, and what are his policy changes specifically to Governor Abbott's proposal, now a law?
Yeah, the White House has been quick to kind of push back on this. They have had no trouble going to battle with Governor Abbott, who they see as sort of taking overzealous steps to address the immigration issue. But at the same time, President Biden has said he's willing to make, quote, significant compromises on immigration policy if it means getting that Ukraine funding in exchange. The president and the White House have pushed for more funding for border agents, for more resources to process migrants at the border. So the White House has sort of signaled that they're willing to play ball here. Now, they're certainly not willing to go as far as Governor Abbott or some of these more right-wing Republicans, but I think there is an appetite for some kind of deal on immigration because the White House thinks ultimately that is good for them as we head into an election year.
Brett Samuels, one-word answer, yes or no, before I let you go. Is President Biden's re-election campaign in free fall?
I'm going to say no at this point. I'm going to say it's a little too early to say it's in free fall.
All right, you answered the question, but just for the record, you gave me more than one.
Many words.
Brett Samuels,
you can edit that down to a simple no.
We don't edit on the Daily Debrief. Thanks, Brett. And that's it for today's
Kevin.
Daily Debrief. My name is Kevin Cirilli. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to The Hill's YouTube channel. And let me know down in the comments, do you think Trump will be allowed on the Colorado ballot in 2024? And come on back here soon for the intersection between politics and policy.